Welcome back to Real House DIY. We're going to be talking about pull-down kitchen faucets, Moen versus Delta. I recently replaced this Delta with the Moen faucet. I did a ton of time researching, so I'll give you a good comparison between the two, help you make an informed decision. I spent several months researching before I finally decided to purchase this Moen faucet for something that's going to cost you at least a couple $100. It's a pretty big investment. Usually a long-term purchase as well, maybe 10 years or more. You have your main three big brands, typically Moen, Delta, and Kohler, typically the ones you're going to be comparing. Kohler is generally a little bit higher price, so I started with just Delta and Moen. Those are both comparable price range. I asked around a lot, and general consensus is the Moen has a really good warranty. If you ever have any issues with it, they're more than happy to send you replacement parts. I also looked into the no-name brands on Amazon, which might be tempting, under $100 for what looks like a really good faucet, form and function, really good reviews. However, I'd be a little bit wary given you don't necessarily know where they're being manufactured, what oversight they have in the manufacturing process. Are you going to get something that actually has lead in it or carcinogens, anything like that? So for those reasons, I think it's a little bit better to stick with the known brand. Then when you're looking at actually purchasing this and where to purchase, obviously you have Amazon and Home Depot. You can purchase these directly from the manufacturer, also your local plumbing supply. And it seems like there's a bit of a myth about, is the same product that you're getting from Amazon or Home Depot the same as you get from your local plumbing supply? I called Moen. They told me as long as the part number is the same and matching, it's the exact same product. The case where people say, oh, the local plumbing supply, that faucet is made sturdier with all metal and brass parts. What they actually have at the local plumbing supply company, yes, that might be true, but it's a different part number. It might look the same, but it's a different line of the same product. So as long as you're comparing the part numbers, you're going to be getting the same thing. So the first thing I'm looking at in terms of buying a new faucet is I start with my old faucet. What do I really like about this? So with the Delta, it has the magnetic docking, very secure. You always know it's going to be locked in place, and the stream from the faucet is going to be the same. So at first that made me a little bit hesitant about the Moen, but I'll get to the Moen in a few minutes. Also with the Delta, you have the button for stream versus spray. Definitely important to have that spray function in terms for cleaning out the sink. And what I did not want from the Delta one, you have no option to change the temperature before turning the faucet on. So it's always starting at this middle position versus the Moen, which you can change the temperature cold to hot before you turn the faucet on. And also with this Delta, the way this is set up, you could never actually get warm water out of this. It was always going to be either hot or cold. You got to really try hard to get that right in the middle for warm water. Versus the Moen, you have it right here. You know you're going to get warm water to start. Something else in the Delta I really didn't want, the weight here that helps pull the spray head back into position. This is a free moving weight, and the hose, given the hose length, it was just barely too long. So every time I was pulling the faucet head down, this weight is getting stuck on something like the drain line or clunking against it. Sometimes it was hard to move. And the Moen, it does not use the free moving weight. It has a weight that locks into place wherever you want it. Anytime you move this, it's always nice and smooth, not getting stuck, no noise. No clunking noise under the sink, always goes right back in a nice position. Next thing, you don't even really need to think about this because in terms of installation, it's very, very similar. They give you a nice installation tool and the faucet just drops right into place, and then you have this nut that's going to thread underneath, and use the installation tool to help you screw that in and locks up against the underside of the counter. They both have a bracket like this, holds up underneath the underside of the counter, and then the nut threads on to hold that nice and tight underneath the counter there. And the hardest part of the whole thing really, as you can see on this old faucet, getting this old one off, it was all rusted, very hard to move and get it started. When you're talking about the type of faucet you want, you probably want to go with the same exact faucet that you had previously. For example, the pull-down faucet, it's always going to be a very similar height from the counter and reach out from the edge of the sink. And that's highly dependent on the size of your sink. If I had a very shallow sink, you're going to want the very small faucet because a larger faucet will end up splashing and spraying out of the sink. I also ruled out the semi-pro faucets. All of those were very tall, something like 20 inches tall at least. And so do you really want that going to be in the view of your window here? So for that reason I stayed with the pull down faucet, given the nice height, not too big for this sink, not too tall for this window. So next, there's actually some huge differences with the spray heads. This Delta one, very big, very clunky, even feels heavy, versus the Moen. This is very light and delicate. The stream spray button on this Delta, very difficult to turn on and off. However, if you want to stay on, it will always stay on in the spray function. The difference with the Moen is the button here. If the pressure of the water is high enough, then you push this button, the spray will stay on. And then when you turn the water off, it will go back to the stream. So I'll show you that now. If I do just a little bit, yes, you can do the spray, then it immediately goes back stream. If you have higher water pressure, it's going to stay on spray there. And you can switch back and forth. Now when you turn it off, that button switches right back to the stream as the default. And something you notice right now, after you turn it off, and Moen says this is expected because of residual water that's in the hose here, it will continue to drip just a tiny bit, maybe 5 drips, until some of that water drains out. Not a huge deal. Next, I thought I really wanted that Magnag docking. They currently only have that on Delta and Kohler faucets, so I was a little bit hesitant on the Moen. I asked some questions. I also went to the showroom to try them out. And as you can see, it just always goes back into the same position very easily. It's like there might as well be a magnet there, because I really can't tell a difference. And at the same time, you know, the Delta with the magnet there, you had to physically pull that off to get the magnet off. This one, it's easy. You don't have to pull too hard. As for the material of the spray head, they're pretty much all plastic on the spray heads now. You can tell by the noise it makes versus the metal. And it really does look like these are all metal, but they're all plastic. I think unless you're going to a very high-end and high-price faucet, you won't find these in metal. Easily my absolutely favorite feature on this, if you look at that spray head and how it's attached, you can spin this around however much you want. That's not going to come undone. That's not screwed on right here. It's kind of like a ball and socket kind of fitting there. The actual screw-on part is further down below. So it's really nice if you want the buttons to be at the front or the back. You can move this around. It's very, very smooth to move around. You don't have to worry about, as you're spraying this around the sink, that's going to continually loosen over time, because it's not. Versus the Delta, where this just screws on here. So as you're spraying around the sink, this is just going to continue to loosen. It was dripping every now and then, had to tighten it back up. Very annoying to deal with that. We're looking at the faucet attachment. There's tiny little bit of wobble there, but it's very strong attachment. This is pretty much what you'd expect from any faucet nowadays. It's the same on any of the brands that I've tried out. One thing that's a bit interesting, I'm not sure about yet, and it may be just because it's brand new, the handle feels a little bit stiff to move, which may make it a little tricky to dial in, you know, the perfect water pressure coming out of the faucet if you don't want it on full blast or a trickle. But still, it's easy enough to get something right in the middle that you're looking for. Maybe a little bit harder to do with just one hand, but still possible. I'm expecting that to loosen up over time anyway. And also on that same line, if this were a longer handle on the faucet, it would certainly make it a lot easier to get the leverage to dial in that perfect water pressure that you want. I'm coming from this Delta faucet, has a really long handle in comparison, and so it's pretty easy to get some really good leverage on that and get that water pressure right in the middle where you want it. Now if you look down beneath the sink here, you can see what I was talking about on the Moen, where your weight attaches wherever you want it. They suggest attaching it near this piece of yellow tape, so it's way up above the drain line. That won't be clunking on the drain at all. And you can see the hose, yes, it does touch the drain line there, but when you're pulling this up and down, it really doesn't bother at all, doesn't make any noise on that. And for a full demonstration on the faucet, turn the water on. This is all the way back for hot. Full water pressure. You get a small trickle somewhere right in the middle. You can pull that down. Moves around very smoothly. Spray. Turn that to warm. You actually get warm water. Turn it to cold. Turn it off. You can see that it stays in cold position if you want cold the next time. If you want to stay in hot, stays in hot for the next time. Or if you want warm, you know you're getting warm water right away. So this faucet right here, it's the Moen Riley faucet in matte black. Highly recommend it. If you like this video, please remember, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.